years into the administration of President Bola Tinubu, a whole lot have happened. And of course, one of the things that has been discussed is the removal of fuel subsidy. And of course, the floating of the naira. And these, to a large extent, has brought hardship to the Nigerian people. Our topic today is the Tinubu renewed hope agenda. A real change or renewed hardship? That's our topic today. And of course, helping me to do justice to this today is one of the most, some persons will call him one of the most controversial politicians you can find around. One of the most controversial sport minister that Nigeria has ever heard. His voice, always loud when it comes to being fair to the Nigerian people. His voice also always loud when he needs to defend whoever he needs to defend. My guest for today on Speak Your Truth is the former Minister of Sport, Solomon Dalung. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. And I thought we were going to discuss renewed hopelessness.
When you say renewed hopelessness, the theme for this agenda of the President Bola Tinubu is renewed hope. And some persons have said, whether we like it or not, the decisions that he took when he resumed office, they were necessary decisions that needed to be taken. But people like you don't seem to have that notion. Why?
My quarrel is not even with the necessity of the decisions. My quarrel is with the method and the process with which the decision was made. A good decision that was so poorly made, even if well conceived, will of course result in disaster. The president, overwhelmed by the oath of office he has taken because it has been his dream to be a president of Nigeria. And that's why he didn't even commit himself. He didn't have a social contract with Nigerians. He only had this emi loco, the sense of entitlement. He campaigned with the sense of entitlement. So when his dream came true out of a reckless outburst, he said, the subsidy has been withdrawn. A statement that is supposed to be made by a government, not an individual. There was no government. It was only the president and vice president. Who did he consult? Was that a decision subjected to the litmus test of professionals, our economic managers, those who knew the health of the economy? What advice did he get? So you cannot just, overwhelmed by power, and you make statement and I will be cajoled to accept that, it's well-intended. No. The intention is not the issue here. How did you translate your intention? Because the way you translate it, that is how the benefit trickles.
So you said that there was no government as at the time he made that pronouncement. But you also remember you are part of the government of that administration, even though you were, I think you weren't reappointed the second term of President
Muhammadu Buhari, yes.
Remember when President Muhammadu Buhari was leaving, as at that time, the subsidy had already been removed. He only made the announcement. So practically putting the blame on him is also being unfair because there was no provision for it already.
Nigerians are very intelligent people. And so when our knowledge is being reduced to that of morons, it pains me so much. Nigerians have very good idea of how government works. Our traditional institutions before the advent of colonialism were so experienced and complicated. Complex. And so we are not strangers to governance. For anybody to wake up and try to dump his failures on our brains The budget for 2023 provided for subsidy to June.
Ending of June.
Buhari tenure ended in May. Was he expected to provide subsidy for the incoming government? On the 29th of May, he received his defense flag, bringing an end to the era of his government. Was he supposed to plan for the incoming government? And Buhari, being an experienced leader, knew that the new government will require an interface period of a month to be able to start implementing their own initiatives. And so he provided for subsidy till June. It didn't stop at May. But this government withdrew the subsidy in May and has not been able to account for where is the money for the subsidy Buhari provided for.
Why do you say they've not been able to account for the money? The government has also been saying that the money they gain from subsidy is what they give to the states. The FAQ has increased. The states are going home laughing. They don't borrow money anymore. So why say that the money is not? They can't account for the money.
No, I think what we have seen as an improvement is that the governors have been reduced to primary school pupils. When they go before President Bola Tinubu, they kneel down. And this is the first time in the history of this country you see governors sitting on the ground or kneeling down. These are chief executive of autonomous subnational governments. So this is the only evidence of the monies the president is telling us. But we have not seen it translated into any development. We have also seen the governors relocating from their states and living permanently in Abuja. This might mean that, okay, the revenues have increased. We don't know. That they are not borrowing is speculative. The states are borrowing heavily.
If they are borrowing,
the states are borrowing.
If they are borrowing, we are supposed to know. We are supposed to know.
No, you are supposed to know because you don't know even how states borrow. We practice a federal system where globally or within the international law, it is only the Nigerian state that is recognized. The subnational governments are not recognized under international law. So any state that wants to borrow money will have to present a memo to the Federal Executive Council. It's the federation that guarantee and borrows. And payment is usually done by the federal government. And then the money recovered from the state. So this is how these things works. And since they have formed a synergy against the common people in Nigeria, you will not hear the borrowing. Because it's the left hand washing the right hand washing this thing. All of them are in a communion of remaining in power. So none of them will expose anything. Even when you hear the president say, oh, I've given billions, trillions to the state as palliatives. Did you see palliative anywhere? And the federal government is not saying anything. Because for the president, he wants all of them to decamp to APC and endorse him. Because the intention of the president...
Is there anything bad about that?
No, excellent idea. Because we're heading towards a one-party state. And of course, whether he will succeed is another thing. Because the history of this country, all those who have traveled or such adventure had never succeeded. So I don't see anybody in this country.
President Obasanjo almost did it in 2003.
The word almost you use.
But no, he did it. As a matter of fact, he did it in 2003. 28 states out of the 36 states were PDP. So if he does it...
I am not saying being PDP.
I'm just saying, if you're saying he's going through that direction.
No, I'm saying, Obasanjo did not even do this. Obasanjo did not compromise governance for politics in just second year of his tenure. This is the first time in the history of this country that an elected government coming to its 1 year anniversary came with a huge billboard declaring campaign for the next tenure. In the second year, we now have, decamping. Governors are decamping. Very soon we are going to have religious organization will be decamping. Very soon we will be hearing of the NYC, the Scout, Jamaatul Nasrul, Boys Brigade, all decamping. And maybe finally INEC will decamp before the elections. So we'll have a sole candidate. Maybe we're heading towards producing another Ayatollah Khomeini in Nigeria. We have a supreme leader in the person of the president. I don't know. But I think the way the National Assembly is behaving, now that they have turned themselves from rubber stamp to choristers, because anytime they cite the president, it's just like a grandchild seeing his father coming with biscuits. They will start singing, on Yadola we shall stand, on Yadola we shall stand, on Yadola, Tinubu, and all of them will be so excited and dancing. Of course, Nigerians should know that we are heading towards a very dangerous democratic experiment. We may end up with a supreme leader where if you call his name in your house, the security will come and pick you. You have to explain where you're calling his name. This is where we're heading to.
I want us to go back, just backtrack a bit, and that has to do with when you were in government during the Buhari administration, the first term. Do you think that the Buhari administration actually did justice to some things in terms of handling corruption? How did that administration do? Just opposing that administration and how they handle things into this administration, how they lead the foundation. How do you react to that?
I'm going to speak with a very guilty mind because I am one of the persons who campaigned seriously to bring Buhari to power. And one of the things that excited and motivated me to campaign was the war against corruption. But unfortunately, corruption was not quite pronounced in the first 4 years. It wasn't. Of course, in that first 4 years, we had people who could face the president and ask questions and say, look, this wasn't what we told Nigeria.
Was it because you were not part of the second year administration?
I'm just coming. I said there were some people who could do that. So corruption was not too pronounced. Even if it existed, it was not too pronounced. I had corruption issues in the Ministry of Youth and Sports, where about 11 billion, some people who have been accused of being unable to account for 11 billion naira. That happened some years before I came in. It was a corruption issue. Part of it were under this thing. So those were corruption issues. It was reported officially, but was not properly investigated. So it happened under the first January. That's why I said it was not quite pronounced. So I'm not denying that it did not happen. Yeah. But I'm sad that having, encouraged Nigerians, mislead Nigerians to support us so that we can fight corruption, we had monumental corruption during the 8 years of the late president. I use the word monumental deliberately because one instance that has made me sick was this instance of the former accountant general of the nation, who was accused of, in one single transaction, 109 billion naira. Who knows? If deeper investigations are made, you could have more transactions of trillion traceable to one person. This happened under Buhari. The Mefele get happened under Buhari. There are other very serious things. So I'm not saying that Buhari's government did well with the issue of corruption. It didn't even do well with the issue of security. It didn't handle the economy very well. The 4-point agenda we campaigned for, I cannot objectively, honestly convince myself when I use the indices of assessment that we did well. But it is not an excuse for Tinubu's government. It's not. I don't excuse any leader who campaign, mobilize Nigerians to support him, and suddenly turn to be an advocate of blame game. I don't support that. It's responsibilities. When you take responsibilities, you do your best. You talk to the people because you are leading people. But this government has declared war against the poor people of this country. It's a government that is very heartless. They don't care. And I'm not putting these words against them, but the president has confirmed. In his first presidential meeting broadcast, they asked him, are you aware that Nigerians are dying of hunger, of poverty? This is happening. And he said, I have no regret. The president has no regret that his policies is killing Nigerians. He has no regret. That's the leader talking. Come on. What has happened to chapter 2 of our constitution?
So I still wanted us to, there was something you said, I think I'll come back to that, where you said the president in his first media chat, and when he said he had no regret, I think he was reacting to the fact that his policies are policies that needed to be taken at the time he took them. But I'll come back to that. I want us to talk about some of the things that happened when you were Minister of Sports. And because the podcast is about speak your truth, so I want you to speak your truth. There were times where the Athletics Federation of Nigeria and the athletes, most especially, were owed salaries, and it was during your time. It was so loud that time. I could also remember the issue of the Rio 2016, where there were also some things that happened during that time where the athletes were also complaining. Former ministers, I want you to speak your truth. How and what exactly happened?
You don't even need to campaign for the truth.
Okay.
You've just invited the truth. I don't mince word when it comes to saying things the way they happen. That's how I'm made of. You see, you go and take the budget of the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development from 2015 to 2019. I am one of the ministers that had the least budget support from the National Assembly within this period of 4 years. For 4 years, I had no official vehicle. I used my vehicle for 4 years. Let me take Rio, which was the first major challenge I had in office. The budget for Olympics in 2016 by the National Assembly was 400 million. 400 million could not have even purchased tickets for the Nigerian delegation. And that 400 million, it was meant for the preparation of the athletes, camping them to give us podium performance in Rio. The first tranches of the payment of the 400 million came in 4 days into the Olympics. 4 days. These are verifiable facts. So it means from preparation, camping of Team Nigeria to Rio, it was sponsored out of the budget. And how did I do it?
Who sponsored it?
I borrowed 50 million from my late friend, Senator Ifan Yuba, to train and camp and prepare Team Nigeria for Olympics. I also went round soliciting support from the private sector and states to help in facilitating logistics for Rio 2016. My late friend, Prophet T.B. Joshua, gave the Nigerian House Project, which is the hospitality of Olympics for each country, and there was no funds for it. He gave us $150,000 to sponsor that. So Rio 2016 was basically, or more or less, sponsored by efforts of sports-loving Nigerians that supported the initiative before the government reimbursed most of this funding. So that explained the crisis we had. But you see, as a leader, you just have to absorb it, take the blame, so that it will be reduced to you instead of the government being exposed. So basically, this is what happened. So the man was incompetent, that the Boy Scout beret wearing and all the insults were just traceable to this fact that there was no money on the ground to make good whatever intentions we have. And of course, when we came in, the country was in recession. I bought my ticket for Rio before it was refunded. And let me come back to the issue of the Athletics Federation or whatever national federation that had issue of non-payment of the allowances or the bonuses. The first crisis after my inauguration, I faced was the issue of the Dream Team, under 23.
Yeah. I remember that scenario.
Very good.
Yeah.
The day I reported, the first thing I was confronted with was a security report from the West African sub-region indicating that the team was billed to play their semifinals. And instead of the semifinals, they were preparing to go for a protest. And so pressure was brought to bear on my office. And I investigated and discovered that they've not been paid, they've been owed 8 months prior to the time of my coming to office. But the players and the technical team, we had to borrow, again, 400 million from the National Sports Commission, 400 million from them, from one of their accounts, to pay these players before they return to the pitch and ultimately emerge as winners that took us to Rio and returned Nigeria to the medal table with a bronze. So most of these crises of non-payment were inherited. But you see, you don't inherit and begin to blame. People expected me to have maybe behaved like Tinubu's government that is blaming. No. I took responsibility and zeroed everything to myself. So it was incompetent along all these insults we hear. But underlying factors were these things I have enumerated. They were not due to either personal incapability, but they were responsibilities of leadership which you have to deal with.
Before we go to some other, I just wanted to dwell here a bit more. You had your share with the former NFF president under your leadership, and it was almost like every week something is coming out of that particular ministry with you, and it was looking like it wasn't going to end. How were you able to manage the situation, and what is it like, with you after you left office? Because there was a news like after you left office, there was a sign of relief that, last, the man with the beret has left.
I'm very grateful to the Nigerian media. If the Nigerian media has continued with their constant media audit of the activities of that ministry, sports would have not been where we are today. You see, there was nothing I did that was not screened by the Nigerian media. And to me, it was healthy. Yeah. Because that is what is called accountability of leadership. And that put me on my toes. But their inability to continue was what has given me concern. So it looks like they were on vendetta. I was thinking they were discharging their responsibility as the fourth realm. But when I left and they also discontinued, that was when I felt so bad, that I've been feeling so bad till now. Because things that happened after me were so terrible. But the Nigerian media went to sleep. How can the Nigerian media explain that the Tigers that qualified for the World Cup under my watch was disbanded from going to the World Cup? The Nigerian media did not say anything about it. The same Tigers had one of the best records in basketball in Tenerife, Spain in 2018, where they became the first African country to qualify to quarterfinals in 100 years. And they moved their ranking from number 32 in the world to number 8, demolishing great basketball countries like Greece, like Turkey, Argentina. And I raised a memo of about 1 billion naira to President Muhammadu Buhari to compensate them. And it was graciously approved. There were no funds. It was released after I left office.
And nobody attributed that to you?
And this 1 billion naira and another 1 billion naira later release all disappeared. And the Nigerian press was very comfortable. So I just concluded that, they just hate my person, and maybe they hate my guts, and they had some people they wanted to protect. They had some very corrupt people they wanted to protect. And so they developed that professional scrutiny of every action of mine, which was very healthy. They should have continued. They should have continued. I mean, look at where sports is. When I became a minister of sports, Nigeria was nowhere in any sport except women's football. Except women's football. That was where we were only African champion. We couldn't qualify for WAFU. We couldn't qualify for CHAN. We couldn't qualify for AFCON. Couldn't qualify for World Cup. It was this same these are facts you can find out. You know, the press has tried to cover it. But when you give me an opportunity like this, I resurrect it. Okay. I qualified Nigeria for WAFU. We came back with a silver. I qualified Nigeria for AFCON, for CHAN, and World Cup. Before Solomon Dalong in Ministry of Sports, Nigeria will not go to World Cup until we set up a jumbo 10 billion presidential task force to qualify Nigeria. But seated here, as a minister, I qualified Nigeria without a presidential task force. And with a match to spare. These are records. These are unbeatable records. You cannot change them. But you know, because the Nigerian media helped me to succeed, but they think they can bury history. It's impossible. This God we serve has stood with Solomon Dalong. Since I left that office, Nigeria has never smelled World Cup. I left Nigeria as champions of 10 sports. Today, Nigeria is nowhere. We're only battling with the same traditional female football and the Tigers. Because these two female teams have remained consistent.
Are you happy with what the president did with them, after they came back?
Yeah, what the president did, I'm very happy. Because my joy. I'm telling you where my joy is coming from.
Okay.
My joy is he has been able to compensate them for their labor. Like the women football team. They won the African champion, twice under my watch. They were not well
Compensated.
They did digress. The same thing, even the effort I put. At the end of the day, they were not paid. And when they complained, a sitting minister disbanded them. He didn't pay them their monies, he disbanded them when they complained. And so for Tinubu to do what he did, to me, it's healthy because he has compensated them. But my concern with it is sustainability. That's the problem. Because if the country has no money, as the government is making us to believe, it will be a bit difficult because there are about 44 national federations. And football is one medal.
Yeah.
Basketball is one medal. There are sports that have 10, 15, 25 medals.
Yeah.
So when you come to Olympics or Commonwealth Games or African Games, where you will be faced with over 15, 20, 30 medals, gold medals, because it has spurred up the young people now.
Yeah.
Of course, the business enterprise of sports has now been projected. And this is what I've been campaigning against, that put money in sports. It can cure all Nigerian problems, create jobs for the young people, create wealth, and even tame this rising insecurity. Because if the young people are engaged, expressing their talents, they will make money. It's only sports that can produce a billionaire in 6 months. No business does that very fast. Even the information technology does not do it. It's only sports. You can go and sign a player today, and you sign in billions of dollars or euros. It's only sports. So why are we neglecting, this industry and reducing it to mere recreation? Our leaders, go and look at the budget. The National Assembly does not budget for sports. The entire budget for sport, when I was a minister, for the whole 4 years, was equivalent to a budget of one sporting event in the UK. Just one sporting event. The whole 4 years. So we need to be more serious. But for these things that happen under me, since you have decided to christen your program, tell your truth.
Okay.
Of course, I've said what I know.
Yeah, at least we can agree on one thing, that the president got it right with the sports, the Super Falcons, and of course the Tigers. But let's go back to, as we're rounding up, let's go back to the issue of governance. I remember I saw you at the coalition, and you have your friend Nasser El-Rufai is also part of that coalition. Peter Obi is also part of that coalition. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar is also part of that coalition. Aminu Tambuwa is also part of that coalition. Most of these people that I've mentioned, the APC has tagged them retired politicians who are looking for relevance. They also said you are part of them. How would you react to that?
What is the qualification for joining Tinubu? Is there any qualification?
For joining who?
Joining Tinubu's government.
I don't know.
Somebody like me is not qualified.
You are a politician. I'm not a politician.
No, so that's why I'm asking a question that Nigerians will answer, not you.
Okay.
I stand a better chance and will hold a better responsibility and position in Tinubu's government if I join.
So why didn't you join?
If Daniel Bwala, who told us that even if you give Tinubu 30 years, nothing will change. He's sitting comfortably now and defending the government. We can do better than him if we want to join. And let me put the record straight. I resigned from Tinubu's strategic campaign council in 2022 as a director of contact and mobilization. I have my appointment letter signed by Babachir, the chairman of the strategic council. And I've always been explaining why I left. I couldn't continue.
The same Babacha Lawal.
Yes. Bachi Lawal was the chairman of the main council. He resigned. I resigned, and then he resigned after me.
Maybe because he thought he was going to be given the vice president slot, so that's why he resigned. Maybe you follow suit as well.
I left in 2022 before even the primaries.
Okay.
So I am a Nostradamus.
You foresaw what was going to happen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I had an encounter with the president. And after the encounter, the discussions, I was not too convinced that he, at his age, he would be able to survive the complex nature of the Nigerian presidency, where you have arrays of a cabal repositioning themselves and stifling communication from getting to the president. So I believe Nigeria was going to survive it. And I didn't want it to be part of another bad history. Because I knew what happened to Buhari. I knew. I was very, very close to Buhari. And I shared heart to heart with President Buhari what was happening around him. So I knew. Nobody can tell me anything about Nigerian presidency. I had a first-hand experience. Because I've been with a president where we shared commonly the problems of the infrastructure surrounding the office of the president. So I knew that, of course, Tinubu is going to have cabal because I saw them jumping up around him. People, very ambitious people who were jumping. And ultimately, he brought them to surround him, and they have taken over the government. Nobody should deny this. The former chief of staff to President Buhari has confirmed that there was cabal in that government. And I was thinking that Nigerians will come because the first scholar of cabal is Ruben Agbati. Now, the researcher of cabal is Solomon Dalun. Another scholar has joined, the former chief of staff to Buhari. The cabal is a political reality. It plays strategic role in the Nigerian presidency in making the presidency succeed or fail. You know, why Obasanjo and Yar'Adua were able to overcome the infrastructure of the cabal was that they appointed retired military men who were disciplined patriots. So they were not ambitious people. But after these two presidents, subsequent president has brought politicians and saddled them with the offices of chief of staff. And these are people that use the opportunity to expand their political frontiers. Jonathan suffered the same problem. Buhari was Tinubu disaster. So the cabal is a political reality, whether we like it or not. And the person who introduced the concept, who opened my eyes to it, was President Buhari. When we went to take over the villa, because I was a member of the transition committee that took over from Jonathan and handed over to Buhari. So when we went and inspected the villa, we were about leaving and we were at the car park trying to board our vehicles. Then Buhari told me, he said, Che Guevara. I said, may God bless the Dora-born general, the anti-corruption czar. And he said, this place does not look like the place where a Nigerian president should live. And I asked him why, Mr. President. Because then he was a president-elect. And he said, do you see this place looking like Nigeria? I said, I can understand, Mr. President. He said, the serenity of the environment and its isolation from the people of Nigeria, could it produce leadership that will be populist? I said, I'm beginning to pick it. And he said, I am not going to live here. Unfortunately, he made the pronouncement in front of the cabals. They were there. So they knew this man has sowed the trap and he wants to escape. So when he traveled to Daura to bid farewell to the family, his family were moved to the villa before he returned. So he had no option than to join them. And that which he feared ended up consuming him.
Okay, so we're going to round up. I'm just going to ask you this one question. Do you think that ADC has stand a chance in 2027?
Well, you see, we are complaining about the political elements in the ADC. And those complaining, the PDP, I thought they should have had angels on their own side so that we can compare. But they have worse people in government than in the ADC. I know of the Senate president when I was a minister in 2015, when the former EFCC boss, Magu, produced a video of how he was recovering money in dollars in his residence. He was charged to court by EFCC. The matter is still there. For the last time they invited him, he said he was not well, and he's still not well now. So I can understand. While he was a minister of Niger Delta Affairs, during the COVID, he spent 81 billion within 3 months. It was investigated by the National Assembly, where there was this drama and movie of the GM of Niger Delta collapsing in the National Assembly. And such people today are comfortable in APC. And they still have their moral high grounds to stand and look and say, the ADC is made out of this and that. The ADC has better political elements than those that they are parading. Except that we thank Apostle Oshimole. Because Oshimole, the pastor of the APC, said, APC is a den of political bandits and armed robbers. Anybody who jump there, his sins are forgiven. So if you don't want to be harassed, don't want to be prosecuted, join the APC. I've been warning my colleagues that if you must sustain this ADCO, EFCC is going to come after you. And of course, as the prophet of Nigerian politics that I am, EFCC has listed the names of ADC members and started inviting them. Tambuwal has gone. The national chairman of the party is being speculated is going to go. Of course, I'm not surprised. EFCC may invite me that they had a dream that 1 trillion missed in the Ministry of Sports when I was a minister. And of course, if it's the dream of EFCC, you have to go to Koje. So we are aware of all these antics. You can see what now is happening. Let me say this and appeal to Nigerians. I'm very passionate about the peace and unity of this country. I'm into politics, that Nigeria should not disintegrate or go to war. I don't care who is in power, but let us work towards the unity of this country. That's my concern. If Tinubu will serve the purpose of leadership, I will not have problem. People will not be coming to my house disturbing me. APC has introduced violence into 2027. And I'm afraid. In Gombe, at their zonal congresses, stones were flying. Their own congresses. I thought they could be able to address that. Now, we have sponsored violent attacks on the opposition. El Rufai was attacked. Malami has been attacked. Let us not forget that if we start with violence, we may not be able to control it. Let me appeal to all. Play politics without bitterness.
Thank you very much, former minister. We really appreciate you coming. And you have spoken your truth.
Well, if it looks like my truth and you've confirmed it, I'm happy.
Okay, that's what we can give you for this week. We're going to be showing another one next week, where we're going to be inviting different politicians who will speak on the political affair of the nation and social issues as well. This is Speak Your Truth. My name is Ademola Lawrence. Bye for now.